Welcome back. I'm Chris Sikora, and I'm going to guide you through exercise 2 of Inventor 2020, actually 2021. So what you're looking at the screen right here is actually our goal, and that's to create what looks kind of like a wheel, and then we're going to add some little blades on it using the rib tool, and we'll explore some other techniques here, do some patterning. So let's begin. Let's go to New, or File New, and go ahead and select Part. Now, hit the little plus symbol next to origin. Now, there's a couple ways, like I didn't show this other technique to you earlier. Like we see that we have the three planes, like XY is our front plane, XZ is our top plane, and XY is our right side plane. But you could go right here to Start 2D Sketch. Now, if you hit the little arrow, there's Start 2D Sketch and there's Start 3D Sketch. Now, Start 3D Sketch, that's great for as a tool for like wiring or when you're making piping, things like that. But we're actually going to use, or even a structural steel too. But instead, we're going to just stick with the 2D sketch. And when you do that, it brings up those three planes that you see here. And actually the XZ plane is the one we want. So go ahead and select it. Okay. Now, and actually I just realized that wasn't the one we wanted. So here's a good tip. Let's go ahead and we're going to exit out of that. So hit Finish Sketch. Let's try that again. Go to Start 2D Sketch. And actually, we want the XY plane. My mistake. So go ahead and select the XY. Now, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to draw some lines. Go to the Line tool and hover up above this line here as high as you could get almost. Like in this case, I'm about 0.6 on the Y, and X should be 0.00. Just go ahead and click and then drag down and connect. When you get the little green dot, it means you're snapping to the origin. Click, drag it to the left about maybe 2 inches or so, or one and a half, or I had one and a quarter. And once you got that, you can go ahead and hit escape after you click. So we have those two lines. Now what we want to do for one of them is we want to actually turn that into construction geometry or a center line. And you can do that if you just click on it and then go right up here. There's a center line. Now, technically for Revolve, we don't need a center line, but for consistency's sake, it's not a bad idea to just click on it and change it to a center line. That way there's no mistake later on if someone's editing the part. It's always good to have some sort of construction geometry. Okay, now let's go to the Line tool and make sure that that is not still on, okay, just in the event that you hit it out of order. Okay, now move your pointer over this edge here, and like I'm at minus 0.11-ish around there. That's fine, maybe a little bit further out. Click, drag straight up. We don't know the exact dimension for this, but it's going to be as high as we can get it. In fact, I'm going to zoom out a little bit with my wheel. I'm going to scroll forward with the wheel so I could get almost an inch, like 0.8-ish is pretty good. And make sure you get that 90 degrees, but don't type in any value. Click. Drag across here. Now this one does have a value. And you could go ahead and just type in, go straight across here. Make sure you see the 90 degrees. But while the dimension is highlighted, like mine is 0.266 over there, whatever yours is, go ahead and type in 0.4. Hit enter. Now go down at an angle like this. And just about 3/4 of an inch. And like mine is at around 110, 115 degrees, that's fine. Don't touch the center line though. Go ahead and click. Now drag across, and you could actually zoom out a little bit with your wheel. I zoomed in and out a couple times there. And this is going to be about an inch. Go ahead and make sure it's horizontal. Click, and then drag straight up, less than an inch. Click, drag across. Now we do know this dimension. This is going to be 0.25. So make sure it goes straight across. And then go all the way down here to the bottom and make sure it snaps and it looks vertical. You should get the 90 degrees there. So click. And now hit escape. Now we're going to add, actually we'll mirror this across. Now go to the mirror tool up here And you could select each individual line that you want to mirror, or you could do this. You just hover above it, click and drag a fence to surround just the geometry that you're looking to mirror. Release. Now click on Mirror Line and select that horizontal center line that you made. And then hit Apply. And it should mirror it across. If it didn't work for you, you might not have selected things properly. So maybe cancel this out, hit Escape a couple times, and go to Mirror. Make sure Select is selected. Select those individually. Maybe it might be easier for you. And then go to Mirror Line and select that horizontal line. Okay, I'm going to hit Done. Now we can put the rest of the dimensions in. Now, if you're wondering where I'm getting these dimensions, it's in the training guide on Vertani 1. So if you go to VERTA, N as in Nancy, UX, and then 1.com, and then you could click on Instructional Manuals and go to Autodesk Inventor, the green button, and it will bring up the training guide. And then the training guide, you just want to get to page 23, and this is where you can actually see our dimensions located right here that we're going to use. Now I'm going to drag that over to the right on my second screen. If you have a second screen, that's great. Go ahead and drag it over there. And I'm going to proceed to put these dimensions in. So the first dimension, let's go to the dimension tool, is between the center line, the vertical center line, and the vertical line just next to a parallel with it. Click. Drag it over to the right here and up a little bit, and it's going to give you a diameter. Because it's a center line, it will automatically give you that diameter. And that's really nice because later on when we make the drawing, it'll automatically show that as a diameter because eventually this will be revolved 360 degrees. Okay, so with that, it's going to be 0.75. Hit Enter. Now go ahead and click. Let's actually add this dimension between this line and this line here. And click over here to drop that. And that one's going to be 0.25. And select this line to this line here, and that's going to be 2. And we could now put in the angle. Click on this angled line to this vertical line right here, drag that down. That's going to be 18 degrees. And finally, this point to the vertical center line, drag that up. That's going to be 2. And the last dimension should be this outlandish line here to this vertical center line, and that's going to be 5. And that's going to be the overall diameter of our wheel. And now we're ready to go to 3D Model and Revolve. Now, go ahead and select this profile to revolve. And that's the first thing it's looking. Now you see these little blue lines under here? That's the indicator. Whatever there's a blue line underneath it, it's indicating whatever you select on the view screen, that's the input. So the first thing was the profiles. I selected this profile right here. Now sometimes it divides it into 2 depending on how long your center line is, so just be aware that could happen too. Just select both profiles, make sure they're both shaded like this. Now see that blue line under here? If it's not there, click in that selected axis and select the vertical center line. And it should spin it around that as its center, 360 degrees. Go ahead and hit OK. All right, now let's go home. The little home button up there brings us to isometric. Okay, now we have our wheel. Let's add a little bit of detail to it. So go to the Fillet tool, set the radius to 0.1, and select this edge here, this edge here, this one right here, and find with the X-ray vision that you have, that's built into the software, click on this edge. I just call it X-ray vision. It's a selector mode for behind edges, which is really nice. Not all systems have that. Then go ahead and select this edge here, this edge, and if you can, these are a challenge, without rotating the part. Now you can rotate the part if you like, but this is good practice. Get this edge right here, which is, again, X-ray vision. And then finally, we want this one down here. And again, if you want to rotate, I'm just going to hold shift and rotate with the middle wheel. Hold that wheel down like it's a button. And you can select this edge here. If you want, you could go ahead and select these too. Like click on this inside edge, but let's make that one a little smaller. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I need to add that later. Make sure it's back to 0.1. Okay. Now, if you want to deselect that edge, hold Control and deselect it. Now, all those are good. Let's hit click to add, and we could add additional fillets for different sizes. So this next group here, go ahead and select, let's make it 0.04. Now select that edge, and you can see it's going to be smaller. And you could get this edge up here. Now hit click to add, change it to 0.5, and get this edge here. And if you want to use your X-ray, do that, or just rotate it and get this edge right here. And then hit OK. And so now we've added all those different fillets. Now, if you didn't get them all, you could always pause and try and get them, or hit, remember there's an undo button up here. If you ever get any wrong, hit undo, try it again. Follow my lead. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the ribs in. So select this face right here and go to sketch. Now, you could use the arc if you wanted them arched, but I'm just going to use the line because it's just simple. And go in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 concentric circles from the center out. Like right about there, that's good. Click there. Now drag this to the next concentric circle that you come in contact with, and it'll snap. Now let's hold shift and rotate. You'll see basically after you hit escape, you can see we drew that little line segment right there. Notice it's not touching the edges. For the rib tool, you don't need it to touch the edges. In fact, sometimes if you're touching the edges, I've had weird things happen where it didn't like it. So just be aware they don't have to touch the edges. Okay, now that I have that, let's go to 3D model and rib. Now the profile, go ahead and select that edge, and you'll see right away it starts to add that rib. Now you could actually add additional things, like there's the thickness of 0.1. We're going to keep it at that. There's draft, and we'll keep it at top, and we'll just set the draft to, let's put in 3 degrees and hit enter. All right. Now draft, if you zoom up, you can see it widens as it gets lower. So that's so it can pull out of a mold easier when they mold it for manufacturing. Okay, now we're going to mirror that to the other side. So go ahead and select the rib. I prefer to select it from the model tree over here on the left, and then you could go to the mirror tool, and now it's looking for a mirror plane. So we actually want the XZ plane, which runs right through the center of the part, and then go ahead and hit OK. Now let's just double check, hold shift and rotate. You should be able to see it's on both sides. Now we can pattern that. So now hold control and select the rib and the mirror from the model tree. Go to circular. And now it's looking for a rotation axis. Go ahead and just select the outside face here and set it to, like, see we have 6 there. You can set it a little bit higher, maybe 8. Just to have a little fun with it. Put as many as you like. Actually, try not to put too many. It could actually lock up the system if they're overlapping. Or it would, I should say lock it up. It will just take a while. We'll have to think about it, and then it might say it failed to do it. So anyway, go ahead and hit OK. And now we can see we have the patterns there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to enhance this even further. We're going to put in like little scallop cuts here. And just want to show you how easy this is. We're just having a little bit of fun, be aware. So go ahead and click on the X, or I should say the YZ plane over here in the model tree, and go to sketch. Now, so it's easier to see, go to view, go to visual style, and this gives us X-ray vision. It's the shaded with hidden edges. And now we can see in there a little bit better, maybe not so hot, but it's okay. Let's go to, first of all, go to, click on the sketch tab, go to line, and right at this origin, see that yellow dot in the middle? When you get the green dot, click, drag it straight up, and then hit escape. We need that as our axis of revolution for the pattern. Or no, I'm sorry, axis of revolution. Now go to circle and find this midpoint right here. Click and drag on a circle and make it 1 inch. Now find this edge. Now you're not going to locate a midpoint between the middle to the side. So just on X and Y, get them both about where they're about 1 inch. So Y should be about 1 inch. Right about there. You know, let's actually get it out further. Let's go about 1.375. There we go. Y should be about 1.3 something. Click, drag it out, and again, make it 1 inch and enter. Now align yourself to that over here. See how I get the line of inference directly above my pointer? Click, drag this one out, and type in 1. Now we could actually add a constraint here of equal if we wanted to. That's another option, actually probably even better. In fact, let's click on the dimension here after you hit escape, hit delete, and click on this one, hit delete, just to show you what it's capable of. Now go to equal right up here and click here and there, click there, and then here. Notice the little equal symbols pop up. Now they're all equal. So that's another thing you could do instead of having 3 different dimensions guide them. If you know they all need to be the same all the time, why have 3 when you can have 1? Again, design intent. Okay, now let's go to 3D model, go to Revolve. Now the first thing, see the blue line under here is looking for the profiles. Select, now I'm going to rotate, actually I'm going to go to the home button here so we can see it better. Click on these profiles. Now see, mine are broken up into halves. So because of the references that were located, that's okay. Just click on all those so they highlight and change color in the center. So we know that their volumes are going to be accepted. Now click in this select axis and select that vertical line. Notice we didn't draw it as a center line. It accepts it just as a vertical object line. Object lines are solid. All right, now it looks like we have these inner tubes floating in there. Watch this. For Boolean as output, right now it was set to join. Try selecting cut, and it will remove the material instead. Hit OK. And now look at that. Let's go to View, go to Visual Style, and go back. Let's go to Realistic or Shaded with Edges. Either one's fine. All right. Now dress this up for your portfolio. If you remember, we started a portfolio in the last exercise. I'm using LibreOffice. Now, I don't know if I saved it last time. I actually don't think I did. Oh, I did. So I'm going to go ahead and select and open that. So that was from last week. So now we're in E2. What I'm going to do is we'll dress this up a little bit. Now, if you go to, instead of default here, a really neat thing is if you go with a chrome, like chrome polished, looks pretty cool. All right, and then you could also, you could select actually the revolutions over here and then go to a little arrow where it says chrome and go and find, like I'm going to go with dark green, but you could go with dark red, dark blue, whatever you prefer. It will color those surfaces for us, gives it a little bit more depth now. And then finally, instead of orthographic, turn on a vanishing point or perspective is what it is. Now we're ready to, I'm going to go instead of default IBL. I like the 1 or 2 lights. I really like how those look. 1 light looks like that. 2 lights looks a little different. Looks good. And now under visual style, go to realistic. And that even looks better. But if you want to make it look even better than that, hit ray tracing. Now, it seems to me that the ray tracing, since the last time I've done these, last time I worked with Inventor, made videos was 2018. I believe it's greatly enhanced. It actually looks really nice now. You can see there the image looks much better. Now, what I was really impressed with, instead of the chrome's outstanding, but if you go with like a glass or plastic, like polycarbonate looks really good. Let's see. There we go, polycarbonate clear. I was really impressed with it. It captures a lot of effects there. Now over here in the lower right, you can see my ray tracing is set to low. If you set it up higher to draft, it's going to take longer, but it'll actually look better. And there you can see rendering. And the longer you let it run, the better. Now, again, if you have a faster microprocessor or maybe something slower, the more cores you have makes a difference. So if I hit Control-Alt-Delete here, you go to Task Manager, I could bring up the Task Manager and go to Performance, open Resource Monitor, and actually see all my CPUs going. And you can see they're all running at 100%. And I have a total of 32 threads. This is actually a 16-core processor. If you're wondering what it is, it's the, you can see it's running there. It's the Ryzen 9 3950X 16-core. So this is a pretty decent machine. I've spent maybe $1,500 on it, which is pretty expensive, but you could get some great performance with very inexpensive machines. Even machines that are almost a decade old still will work okay as long as you have Windows 10 64-bit and plenty of RAM. Minimum RAM is 4 gigabytes. It runs really slow with that. I'd recommend 16 or more gigabytes. Any modern processor, though, it's going to run pretty well. Okay, so with that, you can see some of the neat effects. I'm going to go ahead and turn off ray tracing, and then I'm going to go back to visual style and turn to shade with edges. And actually, I'm going to turn off polycarbonate because it just looks a little, I'm going to go with silver instead. Oops. There we go. Okay, now going back to the training guide. After you finish this exercise, our task here is Lab 2, and there's Quiz 1. Okay, so Lab 2 here is to make this bolt. And remember, I'd like you to try it on your own if you can. Watch my video if you get stuck. That's the recommended way to do it. But if you want, you can do whatever you want. If you're working on this from home. So let's go to New, Standard iPart, Create. I'm going to go to Start 2D Sketch. Select the XY plane. I'm going to draw. When we look at the print, the overall height is 2 inches, and with a shaft of 1.7. So click, drag this up. You could make sure it's vertical. Type in 2, hit Enter, and I'm going to hit Escape there. Let's see what else. I'm going to go to Front to zoom to fit. I'm going to go back to the line tool and zoom out a little bit. Click here, go across here. This diameter is supposed to be 0.5, so we're drawing 1/2 of the bolt, so it's going to revolve around. So in this case, it should be 0.25. Drag this up. This one should be 1.7. Across here, this will be another 0.25, because 0.25 plus the 0.25, multiply that by 2, you're going to get a 1-inch head on the bolt. And then this next one is 0.1 in height. Hit Enter. So it's vertical. So we have our general dimensions here. Not exactly like they are on the print, by the way. I'm just doing a little math. But now we could go over here to the 3-point arc. Click on this point here to this point. And you could put in the actual dimension of 0.75. Or you could actually lock that in vertical. 0.75 is general for the dome on there. Okay, so now we could go to 3D Model, Revolve, and I was looking for, see the red band there? It's just looking for the edge. So zoom out here, and it should be this edge that you want to revolve around. Hit OK. All right, now let's go to Start 2D Sketch again, and in this case, I'm going to have to hit the origin. And this time I want it on the, we'll go with the YZ plane again. And draw, this one you want a center line to mirror across, so draw a center line. See how I clicked on center line up there? Draw it peeking out like that. Turn it, after you hit Escape, turn off center line. Now we want to put in this information. Okay, so now we're going to put the little slit inside there for the screwdriver. So go to the line tool, make sure again that that one is turned off. You don't want the center line in this case. And you should be able to see, get with the X-ray here, a little bit above this line here, this edge. Click, and drag it across. And this one's going to be, if I recall, 0.05 across. Oops, and I got something I didn't want, it snapped. So I'm going to hit undo. And let's try that again. I'm actually going to start up here. So way above here, click, drag this across. There's no dimension for this one. Just make sure it's 90 degrees, maybe a 1/4 inch or so. Now drag this in, click, and then connect here, and then hit escape. Now you can see the line is through there. As long as it's straight, you're in good shape. Let's go ahead and select that geometry, go to mirror, and now select the vertical center line. Oh, actually you have to click over here on mirror line, and then select the center line and hit apply. Now, if you really want to see in there, go to View and Visual Style and change it to shading, shaded with hidden edges. There, now we can see it. And that will enable us, when we go back to Sketch Tools, to dimension it. So the dimension from here to this bottom edge is 0.15. And then from this point to this point is going to be 0.1. And let's bring up the drawing just so I make sure I'm doing this. So 30 degrees, and the slope was 0.1 at the base, centered. So from here to here, that's going to be 30. All right, I'm just going to hit Finish Sketch. And I didn't really have to hit Finish Sketch, by the way. It's just a force of habit sometimes. And now Profiles, first thing it's looking for, we click in that little area there. Now, we're going to have it go both directions, right here. And then you want right here through all. Okay, and unfortunately the through all is not both through all. So let's go back to this option here and let's go to cut. And just make sure it's going far enough to where it's cutting through it. Give yourself enough clearance and hit OK. And there is a little chamfer on the bottom. So if you go to chamfer, it's going to be 0.03 and distance to distance. So click on that edge and hit OK. And there it is. Now we're not going to learn how to put the thread in. They do have some clever thread tools and things like that. That's more of an advanced thing. I'm not going to cover it in the second exercise. But you can see the thread tools right up there. That completes this lab. So for this one, you want to make sure, again, if you want, just dress it up a little bit. You don't have to do this. If I go to, let's go to engine turned. Oh no, don't like that. We'll go with polish. Again, choose whatever you like. It doesn't really matter. But just make sure it looks pretty decent for your portfolio. Go to View, go to Perspective, and then Visual Style, Realistic, and maybe go Home. And now we could actually turn on Ray Tracing. And again, you could dress it up a little bit more than that, like add some enhancements and such. When you get that, do an Alt Print Screen, and we could go to our document here and start dropping those in. Hit Control V as in Victor, and click on this, go to the crop image, and just drag that in. Oops. Okay, now we can move that over there. Now we still have to get an E2, which I still have here. And down below here, you can see it actually keeps the parts there. There's my original one. There's one I'm going to grab for my portfolio here. Rotate it in such a way that you like it. And again, realistic, ray tracing is going to make it look fancy. And if you want, you could pause it. Otherwise, it'll just keep running till it looks better and better. I'm going to pause it. Alt, print screen. And right over here, Control V, and then crop it again. Or crop this one, I should say. Oh, keep grabbing the wrong one for the header. And you can do this with Microsoft Office too, remember. All right, so there is, again, for our portfolio, looking pretty good. Now let's do the quiz. Now the quiz, I'd like you to do this on your own. Don't watch this video until afterwards. So go to New, Standardized Part, Create. We're going to go, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on the XZ plane. Start a sketch. And we could use, because let me show you what the quiz looks like, by the way. This is what it looks like. It's a 6x3 block with 4 holes in it. It has a circular boss centered, and there's a big through hole in it. And here's all the dimensions. So I'm going to go through this rather quick. So rectangle, 2-point, center point that is. And so we have 6, hit tab, by 3, hit enter, and I'll go click on top there. Let's go to the line tool and turn on center line. And right up here in the middle, click, drag it straight down, click, drag it across. Oops. Hit escape. So we have those for our mirror lines. You're going to go to the circle tool. Right about there, stay away from any geometry. We're going to 0.5. And now go to dimension and locate the center to this edge over here. This is going to be 0.75. Center to the top edge, 0.75. And let's try escape there. Okay. Lay the dimensions out so they look decent. Now we want to mirror that across. So we could go to mirror. First it's looking for the circle, then click on mirror line, select the vertical center line, hit apply. Now you could do this. You could click across, selecting both, go to mirror line and select the horizontal center line, hit apply, and done. Finish sketch. Again, you didn't have to do that part. Let's go to the home button and select these segments here that you want. And it should be 1 inch thick. Hit OK. Now go select this face. Notice I didn't draw in the boss or the hole yet because that's done as a secondary feature. Can you do it that way? You can. It's just that I just didn't feel like doing it. So I'm going to go to circle and 2.5 for the diameter. Actually, let's verify that. 2.25. Good thing I checked. So I'm going to hit escape, double click, 2.25. And go to 3D model, extrude. And this only goes 0.75 in height. That one's hard to see on the print. I will admit that. Go to fillet. And let's put in 0.25. And there's 5 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit OK. Now go to chamfer and 0.125. Actually, that's correct. Just select this edge right here and hit OK. Now, if you do those out of order, the edges aren't going to look right. So that's the order you have to have. You have to do the fillet first, then the chamfer. You can sometimes move these up and down because this browser is actually a history timeline. So you can move things up and down. But it's almost easier just to hit undo until you get rid of the chamfer and then put the fillets in, then put the chamfer back in. There's a lot of little tricks. That's just one thing. Now I forgot the hole. Let's select this face. Go to sketch. The hole in the center should be 1.25. Hit 3D model, extrude. Now you're going to flip it and make sure it's through all and hit OK. And that's it. Now, if you want to get some extra credit, select this face, go to sketch, and I'm going to show you something that's more advanced. Now, we're going to go with text, and you could just, oh, we have to put a line down. Just a second, line. And actually, construction really works well here. So I could like say, let's say I want it right about here. Okay. Now, construction line is what you could lay text on. So you go to the text tool. I think you could lay it on a center line too. Maybe it is a center line. I can't remember. Oh, here. Let's go to geometry text. There we go. Okay, so I selected the little line that I drew with construction. Let's turn off that construction. Oh, turn it back on. Okay. Now, for our text, go ahead and type in here first initial, last name. Okay, and hit update, and you should see it right there. Okay, you can actually change the size by just selecting it here, and you could, don't go with bold, that sometimes messes it up a bit. Let's see if you wanted a quarter, not quite a quarter, but, and hit update. It's too big, so I'm going to go back to 0.125 and hit update again. Oops, got to select it. There we go. All right, hit OK. Now, This quiz is not worth that. It's only worth 10 points. And if you're wondering where all the points are, by the way, in your training guide, you could actually find, and those of you who are taking the class will get this too, there's actually, let's zoom out of here. Oh, I guess it's not in the book. I will provide you, those of you in my class, the point structure. I mean, here you can see the point, how the points are broken down. Apparently, I didn't put it in this version of the training guide. Those of you in my class, I'll send that out to you in an email. So keep an eye open for that. But anyway, this will be an extra 20 credit points if you could do this. So that's worth a lot more than the test, actually. Go to 3D model, go to extrude, select the text. And if you want it embossed, like where it's raised, just leave it as is and put in a distance maybe of 0.02 and hit enter. And there it is. If you want, you could flip it and cut it, make it engraved if you like. But if you could do that, I'll give you extra credit points there. Now, if you could actually get it to where it follows this curve in here, I'll give you an extra 25 credit points. And you'd have to look ahead into exercise or lab 3 in the video to actually see how that's done. So that's why I'll give extra points if you can get it following an arc. Okay, now the way I'd like you to present it to me is just like so. I need to be able to see this information here. So I want you to actually do an Alt print screen, and you could drop it into a new text document. Just Control V. Make sure, so if your name's on it, then you're in good shape, but that's extra credit, so you don't have to have it there, but make sure you put in your name, and then you just go to File, and do a Save As, and you want it as a PDF. Which I'm not seeing here. A Word document would be fine, like a XML. Any of these would be fine. I'm not seeing PDF. Anyway, if you have PDF as an option, that's preferable. Word document's fine. And just send this to me because I need to see the feature tree. Just make sure you did it right. And that concludes this exercise.